Bill the Stunning One Edler is currently second in the Card Player Player of the Year race. He has earned over $2.5 million playing tournament poker in 2007 alone. In the past few months, Edler has won both a World Series of Poker bracelet and a World Poker Tour title.
Bill, what brought you into the poker world when you first started playing poker?
Well, I used to work a real job at Pacific Bell in California in finance or something like that. And I went out to dinner with two of my closest friends and our three female companions, and they sat us at a table with Lee Jones and his wife. Lee Jones, now of fame from being poker manager at PokerStars for many years. At the time, he was just a poker player, but quite an enthusiast. And he was talking about poker throughout the meal, and the three men were sitting on the edge of their seat. We couldn't believe it, and the three women were bored, as you might expect. And so we learned that poker was legal in California. We thought, isn't gambling illegal? He said, oh no, and we learned there was a little poker room in our little town in San Ramon, California, and the rest is history. We started playing and started loving it.
What game did you begin playing?
3-6 Texas Hold'em, Limit Hold'em, yeah.
And what brought your game to the next level when you finally jumped up to higher levels? Was there anything that really helped you out?
I don't know. I played 3-6 there just recreationally for a while, then decided I didn't want to stay at Pacific Bell the rest of my life. I enjoyed it. Good people, good work, overpaid me, but people get attached to a place like Pacific Bell. They start thinking about their pension, which is also becomes enormous, and once you're there for a little bit, it kind of hooks you, and I just decided I didn't want my life there. So I decided to go to law school. I ended up at Bolt Hall, which is the law school at the University of California, Berkeley. And while I was there, I'd play a little bit. And I played at a card room called the Oaks. And that's where I don't really know how I made such a jump, but I kind of started playing 30-60 there from the 3-6 that I was playing before. And those are really pretty dramatically different games. The 3-6 I played in was, 8, 9 people seeing the flop. This 30-60 had some good players. So some of you might know Ted Park, and I don't want to name more names because for fear of leaving people out. But that's where I learned to play Limit Hold'em at a little bit of a higher level.
Did you ever get any really valuable poker advice from any other poker players?
Well, I'm sure I've gotten a lot of advice. I can't think of verbally one thing that really sticks out. However, I can say that the book that I read, the chapter that I read, that Gavin Smith and I both say changed our lives and made us into the poker players we are now. And what I mean by that is the players with the philosophy that we both have right now is Doyle's excellent book, Super System. In his No Limit chapter, he talks about how very often when he gets all the money in the middle, he's taking the worst of it. And I remember when I read that, I remember thinking, oh, come on, Doyle, that's ridiculous. How could you win if you're taking the worst of it? And I had to read it a couple times because I'm slow. Gavin says he got it on the third read. I think it took me 4 or 5 till I realized what's very clearly written is that he's winning all the small pots. And when no one has anything, he's winning all the small pots. And they pretty much make the large pots a free roll. And so if you're taking a little bit of the worst of it, it's okay as long as you're winning more of the other pots. That's my philosophy of poker, or part of my philosophy of poker, and I guess that was a very big influence. Thank you, Doyle.
So how do you manage to pick up all of those small pots? How do you know when someone has a hand, or if you know you can just take it with a bet?
Well, there's some guesswork. All the information that you have, how big the bets were, who's the player, what the flop is, all of that.
What do you think is your biggest strength as a poker player?
I don't know. I try to be as critical as I can of myself. If you ask me the opposite question, I'd probably be able to speak for a while. One thing I think I do well, I like to think I do well, is one of the things I like most about poker is that it's a people game. You play against people differently and in situations differently. And I love that in basketball, if you're born like Shaquille O'Neal, you have to be a power player. You just can't decide to be a point guard. And if you're Dwayne Wade, you have to use your speed. But in poker, it's all in the mind. And I always find it a little sad when a poker player says, oh, well, this works well with my style. because you shouldn't just have one style. There's no reason to have one style. You can play any style you want at any time, and I like to think that I evaluate the situation, and I don't know how well I evaluate it, but that once I have made that decision, I think a strength of mine is that I then play according to how I believe is appropriate. Sometimes I can be really boring and sit around being the tightest player at the table, and sometimes I'm the maniac, and sometimes it could be most of the time it's way in between. But whatever it is, it's based on a conscious choice of what's appropriate at the time. If it turned out that being the rock at the table was appropriate more often than it is, I wouldn't play poker. It just wouldn't be fun. But it doesn't turn out that way too often. But sometimes it does, and I like to think that I'm disciplined enough to play that boring style when it's necessary.
So you've been a successful poker player for quite some time, but 2007 has really just been extraordinary for you. What are you most proud of this year that you've accomplished? I mean, you've accomplished so much.
Well, it's nice of you to say. I've won 3 tournaments this year. That's all I've accomplished. We play to win, and those are my accomplishments.
So you don't count cashes as accomplishments?
God, no. A cash is not an accomplishment. And when you get close and fail, those are the worst failures. Those are the harshest ones. Sometimes you're hit by the deck in tournaments and win, and you have to feel a little sheepish. That's what happened to me in Biloxi.
You just won a World Poker Tour title. How did you take 2 chips and turn it into a World Poker Tour title?
Well, it was my day. I was down to 2,000 in chips when the blinds were 4 and 8, and with $1,000 ante. So I anteed the one and put the other one in as the big blind. Declared myself all in, and I had to win, I believe, a 4-way pot with 8-3 off. I made a pair of threes. Then the next,
and it held up?
It did. And then the next hand I was all in the small blind with ace deuce off, made a pair of aces, and my 2,000 had become nearly 40, 45. I believe I even stole a couple antes after that, and then got it all in with ace-6 against ace-queen, spiked a queen, had 130 without any skill involved. So it's not always that way in tournament poker. Some people say, oh, you got to win some coin flips, you got to get lucky to win poker tournaments. That's true to some extent, but you don't have to get that lucky. That was kind of obscene, and there was no skill involved getting to 130. From the 130 on, I'm proud of the way I played, but I really should have been already knocked out.
So what was it like to win a World Series of Poker bracelet and a World Poker Tour event within a couple months of each other?
Yeah, it was terrific. They were in nearly consecutive tournaments for me. After the main event, I took all that time off, almost 2 months off, went to Europe with my wife and daughter, and so I was really fresh when I got to Biloxi. The 6-handed tournament was terrific. That was my best accomplishment in poker so far. The Biloxi one, it's a smaller field, not as tough a field for sure. Of course, a bracelet is special. WPT title is special, but that 6-handed tournament, I feel I, to some extent, deserved to win more, at least more than the luck that I had in Biloxi. So to me, that was my proudest accomplishment. It was nice to win this Biloxi one, and hopefully win some more.
If somebody wrote to you and asked you what your best advice would be for them as an amateur poker player trying to get into no-limit tournaments, what would you tell them?
Trying to get into an amateur trying to get into no-limit tournaments. Well, experience is very important, so I would tell them to play. Of course, on the net and live, there are plenty of tournaments to suit any bankroll, and I'd say get in and get your hands dirty, read what you can get your hands on, and but even better than that is probably talking to top players, because some of the written material can be a little misleading if you're not already experienced. So seek the advice of good players, but get in and play. Don't be shy.
So the Card Player of the Year race, you're in 2nd place now thanks to your win in Biloxi. You think you're going to overtake David Pham?
That'd be nice. David's a terrific player, a great guy. The top players are really good this year. It's nice to be in the company of David and JC, Jared. I don't know. I haven't taken a look at the list lately.
Tom Schneider's up there.
Jeez, Tom. So yeah, he won 2 bracelets. What a year he's had. It's a tough group. I don't know if I'll be playing as many tournaments as they will, but I'll be playing most of the big ones, so if I do some damage, I can get some points.
What would it mean to you to be the Card Player Player of the Year?
Well, it'd be nice. It's as I showed in Biloxi, and as we all know in tournament poker, there's just a whole lot of short-term luck. I'm always asked by my non-poker playing friends, what's the percentage of luck and the percentage of skill? And I always balk at the question. I don't know how to answer.
Can't put a number on it.
I can't. But whatever it is, obviously in the short run, that luck component is larger, and the more tournaments you play, the larger the component of skill is. So something that, some point system that adds up many, many tournaments, obviously you might be able to take more pride in than just in a given tournament, although a year of tournament poker is still very much the short run.